The article by Nisbeth and Wilson this week highlights studies that shows how unaware we are, or how we're even unable to really explain our cognitive process, or even really sometimes unaware of any stimulus or any factors affecting our decision, which really sort of, I guess, kind of made me realize just how animalistic we are in our behavior. We'd like to think as humans we're very self-aware, and that we're quote unquote logical thinkers, or that we're a little bit more evolved than animals. But I think this study just shows just how easily manipulated we are, and how we're unaware of those manipulations happening, and how we, I think, judging by everyone's responses on this article, there's also a lot of contempt on that conclusion that we're easily manipulated. Would like to think that we're free thinkers, and that we really have autonomy in our decision process. But I think this article is showing just how we're not. And I guess based on the studies that were done, I have mixed emotions. There's this contempt for consumerism and capitalism, and how that specific attribute about us, how that's being exploited to kind of build and continue this capitalistic society, which is kind of sad. That study specifically about just like placement on where things are and how we're likely to buy a certain thing over the other, I thought was interesting and kind of sad. But at the same time, I thought the study about shocks and snakes, and how you're able to help a person sort of like overcome their fear by a very small stimulus or added factor, I thought was encouraging. So you can see, I guess, both sides of how psychology can help people, or can exploit people, just like any other things. And I found it interesting that specifically on the Tide study, how a lot of the subjects kind of summarize their conclusion or justify their decision by sort of recollecting something that's emotional, which shows just how much our sense of feeling, how important that is in our decision process and in sort of our everyday lives. One of the participant, I think, said they chose Tide because of a parent or something. So I feel like that's tugging on a memory, that's tugging on an emotion evoked by that memory, and how interesting that was. And yeah, it was for me a pretty hard read, because I felt like it was saying the same things over and over again in different studies, and it was also difficult because you can't help but be emotional about what you're reading, I guess, about relating it back to you. I thought one of the students in class brought up a really good point, and which was, how a lot of these things, I guess it's sort of exhausting reading about it and how unaware you are of those things, but at the same time, it is sort of not, I guess, it makes sense because it's not, if we believe the fact that we humans are here and like our primary goal is to survive, like I guess thinking about why you chose Tide or why you picked up a certain item in the grocery store is not really conducive of our energy, and it's not important to our survival. So I guess I understand why there's not a whole lot of energy being put into these small decisions. And I guess also it's not a muscle that is trained. We're not trained to sort of do that and to have that really deep self-analyzation about our decisions. We don't tend to do that often in small little things. I do wonder, now that I feel like there's this shift in like culture and this push for to be self-aware. I do wonder how that would change. I wonder if there'll be some sort of improvement in this now that people are a little bit more aware and educated on these factors.